Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Prophetic Solutions team. I am Sanjay. We are learning WordPress JSON REST API tutorial for beginners, and this is our part 15th of this video session series, in which we will discuss about the argument section of custom REST route in WordPress. And also guys, if you are a beginner to this channel, then please don't forget to subscribe and keep watching our previous video sessions of this playlist to understand the clear vision about this playlist. If this is your first video session guys, then I strongly suggest you to watch our previous video session. So just go to YouTube, type online web tutor, and this is the playlist actually you could find about the WordPress JSON REST API tutorial. If you watch all these videos, then you will get the clear concept about this playlist. So in our previous video session we had discussed about the methods type in our custom route. Okay, so just back to our editor, and if I scroll down, so this is the code actually we had written in our last video session, okay, where we had discussed about the request types. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to register some arguments. Means if we run suppose post method, get method, put method, and so on, all these methods, then we require some of the parameters from the user. Okay, so let's comment out these all methods section, okay, and uncomment this is creatable method. Okay, only post method we are enabled actually. Okay, so if you go to again to our browser, where is the browser? So just go to Chrome and let's refresh this JSON. Okay, this is the site URL, okay, of this WordPress setup, and just you have to include WP JSON. Okay, so just press enter. After pressing enter, if I copy all these JSON object values, just go to JSON editor online website and paste all the copied content into inside this editor. Just click on this icon and this icon also. After clicking on that, if I go to the route section, just scroll down, and this is the namespace plus, and this is the route name that we have registered. Okay, just click on that. After clicking, we can see that right now we have only one method. If I click, and this is the post method. Why only we have post method? Because we have enabled actually creatable for now. Okay, so we want that when the user hit by the post method to this route, then it will give some parameters with this post request. Okay, so for that we need to include another parameter inside this array, and this is called arguments, that is args. Okay, and this is type of array. Okay, where actually the user have to enter some of the values actually we are going to mention inside this array. Okay, so what are those values actually user going to with this route? Okay, so let's say that he is able to pass the name section. Okay, and let's say it's an array and it contains the value something called type equal to string. Okay, means we have to make the clear vision about this parameters, that what the parameter actually requires, so that user can clear about this parameter. Okay, so this is the name parameter he needs to include with this route, and it should be type of string. Okay, and let's say another parameter called email, it should be an array, and let's say that type equal to, it's an also a string, so let's say string. Okay, and also let's pass another parameter, let's say age. Okay, and array, and let's say that it should be type of integer value. Okay, so let's say integer. Okay, so these are the three parameters actually user needs to include with this route. Okay, and all about these parameters we have cleared that name should be of type of string, email should be of a string, and the age should be of type integer. Okay, so if we save this file, go to browser again, and if I refresh, just refresh this page, copy once more this object values, paste here, click on this icon and this icon also. If I click on that, just click on routes, scroll down, just click on our custom route, and if I go to the endpoints, section, just click on this icon, and now we can see that under this endpoints we have arguments equal to 3. So if I click on that, we have to pass name, email, and age with this custom route. So if I click each section of these arguments, so just click on name section, and now if I scroll down, so here it's required field. No, it's not required because checkbox is not checked. Okay, and we haven't added any parameter called required in this section. Okay, so right now all these parameters are means mandatory with this custom route. Okay, so that's why it is not checked right now, and it should be of type string. Okay, if I click on email section, it should also a string, and age, it should be also an integer value. Okay, so all these parameters we need to pass with this custom route. So just open up and click on this show app section, click on this postman. Okay, and this is the postman that I have opened. Okay, and this is guys a Chrome extension you need to install to run the route section. Okay, so just go to browser again, click on endpoints, just click on link section and copy this URL section, go to postman and paste the URL right inside this text box. Okay, so just remove this and paste this, and it should be of type post. Just click on that. Okay, so if I click on that, if I click on send button, so right now a simple statement is printed, and this is why, because we have made a call to this post method. After making call, this is the callback function which basically responsible to handle this route's request. Okay, and after getting, so this is the callback function we have made right here. As you can see, call me simple route, and by getting the post type, it has printed the message called status equal to 1 and method should be post. So let's add another parameter inside this array called parameters. Okay, because these are the parameters actually we are getting from our custom URL route. Okay, which actually users passes. So let's say that, and this all request parameters actually we will get from WP REST route, sorry, request. Okay, WP REST request, just we have to make an object of that. So let's say that request, just copy this request variable, go to here, and let's say that request get params is a method. Okay, so just I am pasting it that. Okay, this is responsible to collect all the parameters actually user will pass, like name, email and age. Okay, so if I go postman, just click on send again, so right now we have no parameters actually user has submitted. Okay, so just go to body section, click on form data. Okay, and let's pass name equal to Sanjay Kumar and the email section equal to abc@gmail.com. Okay, so these are the parameters actually user is now sending to this route. Okay, so if I click on this send button, so these are the parameters actually we have collected from this URL. So there is also a parameter we need to pass about called age. Okay, so let's say age, and it should be something called 35. Okay, so if I click on the send button, then now age parameter should also be included inside these parameters. Okay, but if I suppose not pass any of these parameters, so click on send button, so we have no error about the mandatory fields, but right now we can see that parameter section is now blank. Okay, to collect all these parameters, if I go to editor, so we have used method called get params. Okay, so if I want to collect a single value, so let's say that params equal to, so let's say that parameters. Okay, and let's say it's an array, and let's say name. If I want to get the name from the custom route, so we need to use called request get param. Okay, and we need to pass the key value. So what actually key we have actually specified for this name section? The name section key should be name. Okay, because this is the name actually we have registered while registering of our arguments, and this is the name section. Okay, so we need to pass this key value inside this get param key. Okay, so if I just make copy of all these parameters, and let's say email. Okay, and let's say email and something called age, and this is age. Okay, so let's say username, user email and user age. Okay, so these all parameters actually we can retrieve individually by using get params. So if I want to retrieve all the parameters in a bunch, so we need to use method called request and get params in that case. Okay, this method gives all of the information about your parameters, but get param, and inside that we need to pass a single key which actually gives the value of that key only. Okay, so if I save this file, just make copy of this parameters variable, go here and just get rid of that and paste here. Okay, if I go back again to our postman, just click on that. So right now we have no value, as you can see, null null null. So if I pass all these values to our custom route, if I click on send, so all these parameters actually we have accessed by using getParam method. Okay, so now what we want actually with this route, we want that all these parameters should be mandatory for the user. Okay, so if these all fields actually we want to make mandatory, then in that case what we have to do, so just go to parameter section and let's add another argument inside this array, and that should be called required. Okay, so let's say required equal to true value. Okay, basically it enables that user has to pass this name section, and this is a mandatory field. Okay, so if I copy this true value, just paste it here, so now this field actually mandatory for the user. Okay, so if I go back to our browser again, just click here, and if I copy this JSON object once more, paste it here, just click on this icon and this icon also. Okay, so if I go to the route section, click on this custom route and points, 0 index arguments, and now if I click on this name section, so required is checked now because this is the mandatory field. If I go to email section, this is also a mandatory field. If I click on age, this is not mandatory. Why it is not checked? Because we have not added required section inside this array. Okay, so now if I go back to our postman, just uncheck the name section and email section. If I click on send, so this is the error actually we are getting by making mandatory fields, that is missing parameters name and email. Okay, and these are the parameters detail, because these two are the mandatory fields, so we need to pass all these parameters inside this custom route. Okay, so if I click on name section, just uncheck right now for the email. If I click on send, so right now missing parameters, and that is email, means we have an email which is mandatory field and we need to pass with this route. Okay, so if I click on email, just click on send, these are the values. Okay, if I click on uncheck this age section, if I click on send, it is running because age is not the mandatory field right now. And also apart from these, we need to validate these values also. Suppose if I pass a value called Sanjay again, which is not a email address, which is not a valid email address, if I click on send button, it is running user email equal to Sanjay, but this is not a valid value. So we need to validate these values also to pass any of these parameters by this route. Okay, so how can we check that? So just go to editor, and now we need to add a parameter inside this array. Okay, and let's say add, this is a validate callback. Okay, we need to pass a function which takes a parameter, and this is the param. Actually this is the value we are passing inside this key. Okay, this is the value, so we need to validate this key by using this validate callback. Okay, so let's say that if suppose we want that the name should be of its type, means name should be of length at least 10 characters. Okay, so let's say that strlen and params, okay, is greater than 10. Okay, means length of this string value should be greater than 10. If it is greater than 10, so we need to pass the value called true. Okay, else return false, meaning that we have a string less than 10 characters. Okay, so if it passes the true value, then it will run. Otherwise, if it will get a false value from here, then it will arise an error and it not run successfully. Okay, so now we have to pass this name section of string length greater than 10. Okay, so another parameter we are going to pass inside this email section, so just make copy of this validate callback. Again I'm going to add inside this email, so let's say that function param, and this param contains the value of this email address. Okay, so let's validate that. So if filter var, so let's say that filter var, this is a PHP function and it includes the first parameter as param, means the key value which we are passing, and now we need to compare with the email address. So we have called filter validate email. Okay, this is provided by a PHP constant which basically validates a past parameter is email or not. Okay, so now if I go to this if statement, okay, we have an error, and error is something like that, where, okay, so now error has been gone. This is error due to our curly brackets. Okay, so if it is a valid email address, okay, so in that case we need to return the true value. Okay, return true. Otherwise we need to return the false value, so let's say return false. Okay, means if it is a valid email address, it returns true, otherwise false. If it gets the true value, it will run successfully, otherwise it will give an error. Okay, so if I go to the Postman again, if I clicking on this send button, so as you can see, invalid parameter because email address expects email from us. Okay, so let's say sanjay@gmail.com. if I click on the send button, and now successfully run. As you can see, if I just get rid of all these values, and now the name section has length not greater than 10. Okay, so if I click on the send button, invalid parameters name section. Okay, so basically we need to include these parameters. Okay guys, so as you can see, now we have validated our callback parameters as well. Okay, and also if I want to validate this age section, then we can also validate that. Right now if I pass inside this age section, so let's say that value should be -3. Okay, value should be -3, and as we know that age should not be negative. Okay, so why it is expecting from us, so let's add a validate callback function. So let's say validate callback. Okay, and we need to add a function, which function requires this parameter. Okay, and we need to validate that first. So let's say return is numeric. Okay, so let's say that this is a param. Okay, so if I pass any of the age inside this validate callback function, so it should validate first. Okay, and now if also just get rid of that, if let's say that param is greater than 0 or greater than -1. Okay, so in this case actually we will return true value. Okay, otherwise if age should be negative, then in that case we need to return the false value. Okay, so if I go to again to our Postman section, if I click on this icon, so now invalid parameter age. Okay, so we need to pass let's say 100 years. Successfully run, as you can see. So these are the things guys that we need to understand, that how can we pass these arguments with this route. So what are the very basic steps that we need to make clear mind. So just go to editor again. So to add the parameters to our custom route, we need to include a parameter called arguments. Okay, means args. We need to pass inside this args, let's make an array, and array of what? Array of these parameters. Inside that we need to pass key value pair, and key here is something like that, which we pass right here. Okay, and value should be what actually the user passes. User passes the values of a string type, it should be required, and the validate callback function is basically responsible to validate this key value. Okay, so if I scroll down, so all the same we have did, and now to receive all these parameters to our callback function, if we want to retrieve all these parameters at once, so we in that condition we need to use the getParams method. Okay, and getParams method is called by this object and request object of type WP REST request. Okay, so you need to include this variable to your callback function. Okay, and by the help of this object, if we want to retrieve all the parameters at once, so in that condition we need to use getParams method. Otherwise, to retrieve single value, means step by step, to retrieve that we need to use getParam method only, and we need to pass the key value. Okay, key name, which basically gives you the value of that key. Okay, so these are the things guys that we have seen about this custom route, so that how can we pass the argument section to our custom route call. Okay, so if you have any query in this video session guys, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day.